TigerNet Talk is on the air, a 1 hour talk show giving Clemson fans a power hour of Tiger sports talk. TigerNet Talk is presented by Amtrak and brought to you by TigerNet.com. Hello, everybody. I'm Lawton Swan. Welcome into the program. Glad to have you with us here once again on TigerNet Talk. Another episode, number 192, the Georgia Reaction Program. Thank you so much for being here with us once again as we take a look at your favorite team, my favorite team, the Clemson Tigers. And don't forget, as excited as you were this past weekend after Clemson's 38-35 victory over the Georgia Bulldogs, it is just one step in the right direction. So it's not a culminating event. It is merely the beginning of what could be an unbelievable season for your Clemson Tigers. We gave you 37-31, but again, the actual 38-35, a great game in an electric Death Valley. We're going to look at Rod McDowell and his play, plus a key player who many people may not recognize in this ballgame. We'll let you know who we think that is. Also, we will definitely entertain your calls here on the Clemson hotline, 803-450-0086. That's right, on TigerNet Talk, you can call the Clemson hotline and take part in the program at any time. A whole hour of Clemson sports talk up for you Tiger fans right after these messages.
Want to hear the sound of hassle-free traveling?
All aboard!
Amtrak takes the hassle out of traveling to over 500 destinations. You can stretch out in a spacious seat, relax in a sleeping car, and enjoy a hot meal in the dining car. And for those who want to kick back and take in the scenery, go right ahead. For everything you get on Amtrak, the one thing you won't get is this. So whether you're going to a family reunion or an away game, make it a whole lot nicer on Amtrak. Book your trip today at Amtrak.com or call 1-800-USA-RAIL.
All aboard!
A winning team requires having great team members. If you are a landowner interested in selling timber or considering buying or selling land, call the winning team of Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty LLC today. Put the knowledge and skills of professional licensed foresters and realtors to work for your team. To learn more about services offered by Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty LLC, visit crosscreektimber.com and easily follow the link to real estate or reach them by phone at 864-517-3620 or 864-517-3621.
Now, Clemson Tiger fans have a show of their own.
The thing that you like if you're a Clemson fan is that as good as this offense is, there are a lot of teams that you can just flat out go out on the field and outscore.
It's Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan. Weeknights 6 to 8 on 560 The Team.
Hi, I'm Alicia Kaufman-Quinton. My daddy, Billy Kaufman, opened Kaufman's Meat Plant at our present location in 1955. My family still works hard every day to ensure fresh quality cuts of beef, pork, and poultry. How about a tasty T-bone, ribeye, or New York strip steak? But to order at Kaufman's Meat Place, just look for the signs near the intersection of US 1 and I-20 in Lexington. Call us at 356-0076 to place your order. Kaufman's Meat Place, when you want the very best your money can buy.
Before going on vacation, you need to know what to pack. Preparing for your financial future is similar. Without proper planning, you could very well be left out in the cold. Raymond James financial advisor and certified financial planner Chris Benson can offer you a variety of investment solutions designed for your specific needs. For more information, call Chris at 864-681-1560, located in downtown Lawrence. Raymond James Financial Services, member of FINRA and SIPC. Life well planned.
Coach Ford, I wrote this song for you. I'm singing from my heart. There's something special in your style. I've known it from the start. Oh, listen up, we won't give up. We'll soon be number one. We'll be grinning from ear to ear when the football season's done.
Oh, yeah, Coach Ford, I wrote that song for you, and I'm singing from my heart. Man, what a great, great way to celebrate Coach Danny Ford in front of 83,000 strong Georgia Bulldogs, Clemson Tiger fans. One of the greatest head coaches in the history of the Atlantic Coast Conference, the youngest head coach to ever win a national championship. I mean, just the pieces that all fell in place for that to be put together on the evening that it was, and the way things came and worked out for your Tigers in the final, minutes of that ball game, so impressive. And to be up 10 and to really not have to worry until Georgia punched it in late, to even have to be really sitting on pins and needles is so impressive in my opinion. And I think if you're a Clemson Tiger fan right now and you look at this team and you look at Georgia and you know the question marks they had coming in, you have to feel great about where you sit right now with the remaining schedule. We always knew that this first hurdle might be the most difficult one that you face all year. And that's not to take anything away from Florida State or South Carolina, but this obviously, this ball game was just the stepping stone potentially towards an unbelievable season. A season that Clemson hasn't seen in years, and that would pale, make the other, the past couple of seasons maybe pale in comparison. I mean, that's just how good this season could work out for your Tigers. So keep your eye on the remaining games. Focus on them one at a time, however, and understand that because you won this game, it doesn't mean that you're going to win every game. I mean, we're still talking about 22 to 18-year-old men going out there who are going to make mistakes, a la Sammy Watkins on the uh, muff punt. You have those moments in ball games. Aaron Murray is a great quarterback. Let's don't take anything away from Aaron Murray. But Corey Crawford and his interception is something that even the greatest of quarterbacks can throw. Taj Boyd can get caught with that zone coverage from the defensive lineman. Just slide in there. It was a thing of beauty. But I want to temper the expectations just a little bit. And I know that you're excited because of where you sit right now. But let's don't get too far ahead of ourselves just yet. It's probably okay to be a little bit cautious going forward. But the thing I've said before, you heard in the promo for my Clemson Sports Talk program that's broadcast Mondays through Fridays from 6 to 8. The thing you like about this offense is we can outscore a lot of teams. Georgia would be a team coming into this game that I felt like maybe had a chance to outscore us as well. South Carolina, because of their good defense, may have a chance to outscore us if they can shut down our offensive attack. But you turn your attention now from the Georgia Bulldogs to the SC State Bulldogs. That's where your attention has to be focused, in my opinion. Now, the star of the game, or maybe I should say the surprising star of the game for me, the player on the field that made me feel so good about this ball club, Roderick McDowell. I've thrown up there many times that there was that sounded like I threw up. I didn't throw up. I put out the topic a number of times that I was concerned at the running back position coming into this season. I probably like Zach Brooks physically, everything he brings to the table more than McDowell, more than even DJ Howard. Had Tyshawn Dye not been injured and maybe have been, a little bit more successful in the preseason, maybe we would have seen some more of Tyshawn Dye in this game. And an opportunity. I know we didn't see any of him, but some of him in this game. And he may have been a focal point had he been able to be there. I had concerns about Roger McDowell. At this point, all concerns about McDowell have been erased. Like Rick says in the chat room, McDowell has a cut better than a ninja. McDowell hit the O button. If you play the old PlayStation from back in the day, that's the old spin cycle. And he put a couple of Georgia defenders in the spin cycle. He pulled the L trigger every once in a while, gave some guys the dead leg. Roderick McDowell, 22 carries, 132 yards. He didn't get into the end zone, but he impressed me. Hashtag CST560 is the way you can get to us on Twitter. Comes right to us. Follow us on Twitter. We're at Clemson Sports. And if you want to call the Clemson hotline here on TigerNet Talk, 803-450-0086. I want this show to become a little bit more reactionary. I'd like to hear from you. Don't forget, over on ClemsonSportsTalk.com, there's a leave a voicemail feature. And the Clemson hotline phone number is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 803 450-0086. And you can call that anytime. You're listening to the podcast. I know that Michael's in here this evening. He normally checks us out via the podcast edition. We got a number of great Clemson Tiger fans: Jackson, Brad, Rick, Keith, RC, Doug, Nicholas, David, Matthew, Chris, Philip, Erica, and a bunch of guests. Gary hanging out too. The Clemson Junkies in the house. Join the chat room. We have a great time. If you have a question or a comment you want to put on the screen, put it in the screen queue below the main chat room, and we'll definitely address whatever you're interested in talking about. Now, if you've never listened to this show live, it's going to come across a little bit differently than normal. We will actually go to a silent break for just a few seconds in between segments because we cut this show up into 3 different segments for radio stations to play. However, when you download the podcast, it'll all come in one chunk. So don't panic if you don't hear me here on the live feed for maybe 30 seconds at normally what will be about 13 minutes past the hour. We're closing in on that time right now, so we'll be getting there in just a minute. But, yeah, Roderick McDowell has eased my nervousness, my caution going in to saying did Clemson or did Clemson not have an every down back. Taj Boyd carries the ball 13 times for 42 yards and 2 touchdowns. Still a bit worried in some ways that Taj Boyd's getting so many carries in the short yardage running game. I would like for at some point this season to find somebody else who can carry the load there. But to the credit of Chad Morris, and there's a ton of credit that goes to Chad Morris because he is a fantastic offensive coordinator. To the credit of Chad Morris, I really get the feeling that he is so comfortable right now with Taj Boyd, his ability to read the play, whether to make the handoff, and then to find that hole. And he can power through. Taj Boyd, 2 touchdowns. When you're in the red zone, you got to capitalize. You got to punch it in. The Tigers were able to do that most of the evening. And the difference in this game comes a lot down to Georgia's lack of execution on a chip shot field goal. That's the difference, really. The 3 points right there, you can find it. And there are a lot of things you could say to be critical of the Clemson defense. We'll talk a little bit more about our defense later in the program. But for me, Roderick McDowell was unbelievable. And a guy that many people will not talk about, Bradley Pinion. What an unbelievable performance. Kicking the ball out of the end zone every single time. And the kid was born with a cannon for a leg when he's punting the ball. I think they put in those all-state nets to protect the fans from Bradley Pinion's kickoffs and not Catanzaro field goals and extra points. Stay with us, Tiger fans. We'll be right back.
This is Coach Dabo Swinney of the Clemson Tigers, and you're listening to the Clemson Hotline on the John C. Calhoun Radio Network.
Oh, yeah, welcome back into TigerNet Talk here, and we've got a caller on the Clemson Hotline. It's Roger calling into the program. Roger said, Swanee, you sound tired. Roger, a little bit tired. You know the traffic to get out of Clemson. You know what that's like. I think everybody in Tiger Town understands that. I mean, we left the tailgate at 2 o'clock. We didn't get back to the hotel. It took us an hour to drop my nephew off at this condo, which is about 2 miles away from campus. And then it was another hour to get to the hotel. So 4:08 in the a.m., my head hit the pillow. Had to get up, to come home and see the kids and have a fun day with them. And finally caught just a little brief nap before the program. But the reason that I wasn't quite on point there in the first segment, I'll be honest with you, I've got my little clock up here that I'm supposed to start every segment. And for whatever reason, that clock did not start. So, because of that fact, I was trying to calculate what time I needed to go out to make sure my segment wasn't too big. So that's what threw me off. That's why the pace was a little down. I'm back, though. I'm at the top of my game, Roger. Thanks for calling in on the Clemson Hotline here on TigerNet Talk.
Yeah, no, you on the computer, you don't sound like you do on the phone. And so when you answer the phone, it's kind of, dude, this guy's asleep.
Well,
But you got to be tired. But listen, all of Clemson Nation is tired. And this has been about a 48-hour tailgate. And I'm loving it. I'm telling you. You know, I've told you before, Dabo, in my opinion, is trying to build. Just watch listen to him and watch him. He is trying to build another Bama in Clemson. And I was watching Virginia Tech against Alabama. And Fuller, that defensive back, true freshman, Clemson won, and he had come to us. And I'm watching him on television. I'm like, dude, you are good. But why did you go there? Why didn't you come here where you can actually do something? That's what I'm thinking in my mind. But listen, I wouldn't pick that game, Clemson and Georgia, all the way up to the game. I wouldn't pick it. I mean, I got hope, but how in the world are we going to stop the best running back in the country and another top 10 running back with an offensive line like that and with what our defense looked like last year? And you can't base it just off the LSU game. But it was the first or second running play of the game for Gurley, and he went to the right. And I don't know if it was a linebacker or a cornerback who hit him. And when they hit him, my eyes opened, and I was like, man, we don't hit like that. That's not Clemson. That's not what I'm used to seeing over the past 10 years.
right.
They hit him with, hey, I'm bringing you down. I don't care who you are. And I was just like, wow.
Well, then, and also, yeah, Roger, and I think on that play, too, was the play where Grady Jarrett came just trucking over, 300 and some odd pounds, just came running over. And I was like, the Tigers are hitting tonight. They're playing old school Clemson football.
Yeah, well, there was three of them, I think, involved in the tackle.
Right.
But the first guy is like half of Gurley's size. And you're, and every Clemson fan knows what I'm talking about. Over the past 10 years, it's an arm tackle. I'm just going to try to slow you down until I can get help. This guy's half Gurley's size and just lays one on him. And then here comes help. That is what surprised me. And that opened my eyes up. And then later on, that defense started. And Dabo said it was called depth now, where the guys aren't getting tired. But I'm going to tell you something. It shocked me. It brought back the 1980s. And, hey, look, it's just good to be a Clemson fan.
Oh, it feels great. And the thing I think that we have to recognize, too, Roger, you give up 545 total yards, but you give it up to a very good team. And when you look at the numbers of a guy like Todd Gurley, 154 yards, you take that big 75-yard touchdown run out of the equation, and you hold what I think is the best running back in America. I think they're arguably the best tandem, but I think he might have proven last night that he is the best running back in America. Reminded me a lot of Michael Dyer in that Auburn game, going down the sidelines, just outrunning Clemson secondary. And unfortunately for Clemson, Travis Blanks got kind of caught up in the wash and just couldn't get there to fill the gap. And when you let a guy like Todd Gurley get in the open field, as big as he is, you're not going to run him down too often. Maybe the only player on Clemson's team that could have caught him last night might have been Sammy Watkins, because when he ran over Swan, and believe me, that was cool for me to have Swan get run over by Sammy Watkins. When he ran over Swan and saw the open field, Watkins turned on the Jets. He was gone. It was an electric game. I mean, it felt so good, Roger.
Yeah, well, it's nice to see. We're watching somebody who went through the Bama system, and he's wanting to build that. Not necessarily like Bama as far as, your big power slow team, but he is building his own mold of them, and I don't think it's far away.
I think you got a great point, Roger. As always, man, we appreciate your phone calls, calling the Clemson hotline here on TigerNet Talk. And any of you out there listening to the program, whether you're listening live or on the podcast edition, you can also do it. Plus, you can join us 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. on the iHeartRadio application, also on 560theteam.com. Roger's a loyal listener to the program. He tunes in all the time, gives us a call from the upstate. We've had callers from all over the country tuning into that program. We're bringing Clemson sports to the Midlands. We had our brand new banner out at the tailgate. Oh, my goodness. It looked unbelievable. Going to put a tweet out of that real soon. We've got a bunch of people in the chat room this evening hanging out with us. Thank you so much to all of them. And when we come back, we're going to touch on something Roger said. Roger made a great point, and I know Roger's audio was down. I think we might have gotten that fixed there a little bit halfway through the conversation, but it should be good to go once we get to the podcast edition. Everything should be leveled off pretty well. But when we come back here on TigerNet Talk, man, episode number 192, it's unbelievable, the Georgia Reaction Show. And again, if you want to get in, 803-450-0086, feel free to do so. When we come back, Dabo Swinney talks about that. It's not just about the ACC or the SEC. It's about the program. Greg Wallace got Dabo Swinney fired up. We'll play that audio when we get back. Stick around, Tiger fans.
Tired of waiting hours to fill a prescription? Have problems getting to the pharmacy and don't trust a faceless mail-order service? The good folks at Chapin Pharmacy have been serving the Chapin area for 17 years quickly and with a smile. They also offer free delivery to Chapin and the surrounding areas. Request refills 24 hours a day on the phone, online at chapinrx.com, or with the RX2Go app. In Chapin at 138 Amex Ferry Road or 345-1114. Discover what a pharmacy should be. Chapin Pharmacy.
Now, Clemson Tiger fans have a show of their own.
The thing that you like if you're a Clemson fan is that as good as this offense is, there are a lot of teams that you can just flat out go out on the field and outscore.
It's Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan. Weeknights 6 to 8 on 560 The Team.
Since 1968, Carolina Forklift opened in Columbia, South Carolina. 45 years and one name change later, CMH Services still delivers top quality equipment and industrial storage systems. For new and used forklifts, rentals, or on-site repair of existing forklifts, call CMH Services at 1-800-922-6709. With branches in Columbia, Greenville, and Charleston, CMH Services is South Carolina's home for material handling equipment. Visit them online at cmhservices.net.
There's something about looking and feeling classy that everyone enjoys. Check out Edisto Outdoors, an apparel brand inspired by our southern animals and environment. These shirts feature soft-touch prints that will keep you looking your best in all types of weather. Look for Edisto Outdoors coming soon to many fine retailers across the state, or visit www.edistooutdoors.com. Technical, comfortable, livable.
Can't do it.
Do you say that about your dentist? Let me tell you about G-Dog. That's General Dentistry at Oak Grove. They're located on Highway 1 between I-20 and I-26. I recently had the crown done, and it was a piece of cake. With TVs and headphones in every room and digital x-rays done in a flash, you can relax while their wonderful staff takes care of your needs. 803-957-2297. Tell them you heard about them right here on Clemson Sports Talk and receive $50 off your first visit. That's G-Dog. General Dentistry at Oak Grove.
We turned up, we run down the hill, we so turned up. Rock the rock, hit the field, no competition, we first up. Offense is too fast, defense ain't scared, boy. Line up against me, we drop you on your head, boy. Death Valley be jumping, whole stadium pumping. Best fans in the whole nation, and damn right we love them. C-L-E-M-S-O-N, we Clemson, we ballin', we all in.
Well, Welcome back in to TigerNet Talk. Thank you so much for being here with us once again. Rick checks in. He says Lawton looks like a hot mess. Well, that's why I'm on the radio. That's why technically you don't have to watch the live show, but we appreciate it, Rick. I can look like a hot mess and sound like $1 million. Well, at least I could say that about myself for a minute. Some of you people out there are probably thinking, boring. Couldn't hear you, Homer. Boring. Yeah, boring. That's right. All right, welcome in. Glad to have you guys back from the commercial break. Man, I tell you what, I know I came in with a little tempered expectations, trying to get you down a little bit off of that high because I know how good it feels. And trust me, you have the right to be excited about this ball club at this point. You have the right to be excited. Somebody said to me today, Swanee, you know the game that really scares me is that Syracuse game. I'm chalking that Syracuse game up as I know that it's a venue you've never been to before, but it's indoors, and this offense, if there's an offense in America that's made to play inside on artificial turf to electrify a crowd, it's got to be this Clemson Tiger offense. 803-450-0086 is the Clemson hotline number tonight here on TigerNet Talk. Thank you so much for being here with us. Dabo Swinney said it's not about the conference you play in. It's not about just beating Georgia and beating LSU. That's not what this whole thing is about. It's about the program. Greg Wallace asked the question, and Dabo Swinney delivered this answer.
Yeah, well, I don't get that, okay? And y'all need to start writing something different, all right? Or people need, whoever covers us, need to start asking different questions, because I don't get that, all right? The bottom line is this program has been as consistent as any program in college football over the last 30-something weeks, because there's only 6 teams in America that have been ranked 30-something weeks in a row or more. There's only 6. There's 125. So I don't understand it. How come they don't say that about where's all these others? Because the only ones on that list are LSU, Alabama, Oregon, Stanford, South Carolina, and Clemson. Now, there's a whole lot of other great programs out there that aren't on that list. So why don't y'all write about them, okay? Because Clemson has been as consistent as anybody in the country as far as, now we haven't won them all. Them other teams hadn't won it all either, all right? But it seems like that always wants to come up. People want to always bring up something that happened from 5 years ago. We need to move on, all right? Let's get a different storyline. Let's talk about what we have done, not what we haven't done, okay? Because I get that. We're beyond that. Our players deserve better than that. This team has been incredibly consistent. They compete at a high level. We're not perfect, but they compete at a high level. There's a lot of teams. I'm not going to call names. Y'all just visualize them. But I just named 6. Where are all those other schools in that consistency? So I think at some point people need to recognize that these players have played at a very high level very consistently. No, we have not won them all. They're never going to be happy till you win them all. But they've achieved a lot of things, and I just think that should be recognized, and they should be complimented for that, for what they've done. Again, I just get tired of that storyline. I don't know where it comes from. It's just something people, I guess, it's a fun thing to talk about, but all I know is what these guys have been able to do over the last 30-something weeks of college football. They've been incredibly consistent. And listen, we got all the respect in the world for the SEC and all that stuff, but it's not about a league. It's about a program. It's about a program, bottom line. And, hey, we love being in the ACC. We're very proud of all that stuff, but we're worried about Clemson, being the best Clemson that we can be. And, these guys, they don't feel like they take a backseat to anybody.
Bam! Dabo Swinney delivering some goodness there. I'll tell you what. And that's been my feeling all along just about Clemson in the Atlantic Coast Conference. See, if you haven't figured this out yet, if you're still buying in that because Clemson doesn't play in the almighty SEC that we can't compete, you're missing the boat. Because the actual fact of the matter is, not only can we compete, we're arguably in a better position than a lot of the teams in the SEC because of where we compete. And as the playoff expands from 4 to 8, which we all know it will, guys, you're in a better spot. You are in a better spot. You've proven yourselves back-to-back ball games nationally. You get a chance to prove yourself again against a very legitimate team. Hopefully, Florida State will not fall off before coming into Death Valley. Give yourselves a little bit of a crescendo midseason. And then if South Carolina has a good year. And by the way, speaking of South Carolina, we know what that game could mean at the end of the season now. I mean, you can start looking ahead and thinking, wow, what it could be. One loss going into that game last year to Florida State. This year, maybe the potential to be undefeated because you get Florida State and Georgia Tech at home. Then you travel down to Williams-Brice Stadium. Long way to go, but the opportunity is there. But I just can't figure this whole South Carolina thing out. And maybe it's because I wasn't born a Gamecock that I don't get this. What is the deal with if Clemson were to lose to Georgia, you can't hang in the SEC, but when you beat Georgia, well, they're not a very good team. Back and forth this guy went on Twitter with me today and Mark Packer for some reason. And I don't even, sometimes I'm like, should I even address this? But the guy says, you still haven't beaten anybody. And Mark Packer wrote back to him and said, well, good luck with nobody next weekend in between the hedges. I mean, that's kind of the feeling I have. I mean, you know, Clemson got it done against the Georgia Bulldogs in a game where it could have gone either way. And I think every fan sitting in the stadium felt like that's a game that could go either way. I mean, in your heart, you want your team to win. In your heart, you want to walk into that stadium and go, we got this one. But in the back of your mind, you understand that this is probably a 50-50 split. You understand that that's possibly a fact. Keith says, I couldn't be there, but I could feel the energy from the Valley. Keith, you're right. We're going to talk about the energy of the Valley, as a matter of fact, in our final segment of the program. Third quarter strong. I don't know if you follow us enough to know our little Twitter hashtag that we put out. 3RD quarter strong. And we'll bring that back for the Florida State game. I think we should probably think about using it for the Georgia Tech game. And some people would say we need to consider it every single home game. And because Clemson allows a pass-out policy where you can leave the stadium, we have to be third quarter strong. That was absolutely what Clemson was in this ball game against Georgia. It was unbelievable. So we're definitely going to talk about that. Jackson checks in. He says, is it me or do our linebackers bite too much? Don't get me wrong, they did amazing. I'm assuming you're talking about biting on that play action pass. Well, that's the nature of playing a team with a rushing attack like Georgia has. You have to be honest. You have to sometimes commit a bit more than you would like to. And early in that game, before Clemson finally got pressure on Aaron Murray, they were getting close. I actually had the tweet written that says, man, Clemson's starting to get close. Then Vic Beasley on a big third down laid the hammer down. In our stat of the game to kind of keep your eye on, we said, hey, this is the one before the game. This is the one you want to follow. Third down efficiency. Georgia was 4 of 14 on third downs. Of course, they did have that fourth down conversion with the fake punt, which I think everybody saw coming from a mile away. They went 2 for 3 on fourth down conversions, but your Tigers were 7 of 16 on third down conversions. 7 of 16. Ideally, if you can get to about 50-50 split on that, that's winning football. You'd love to be above 50, but 7 of 16 is nothing to laugh at. Clemson pulled it off. They also had the fourth down conversion on a pass, oddly enough. I think everybody in the stadium thought, well, here comes the Taj Boyd run. You throw the ball out in the flats to Sharon Peak. Peak's behind the line, and he just said, you know what, I'm going to pick up this first down. I'm going to get these yards. I'm going to earn this first down for Clemson, and he did. And there were a number of other plays, and you go back and you see a guy like Sammy Watkins sacrificing himself to block for Martavis Bryant to spring him towards Clemson's first touchdown on a 25-yard catch. I mean, moments like that, when your All-American players are getting down and dirty to help the team be successful, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And, celebrations and everything that goes on, Taj Boyd doing the cash kind of symbol, I don't know if I like it or not, especially after Johnny Manziel did it earlier in the day, and Johnny Manziel's whole issue with just being oh my gosh, if he played for Clemson, I would be embarrassed. I can't believe that Texas A&M I cannot imagine that there's a fan of Texas A&M that says to themselves, you know what, that's our guy. We love having Johnny at quarterback. Kevin Sumlin, please fix the problem. Please fix the problem. But anyway, celebrations and stuff, they get out of hand sometimes. If you didn't hear this, Malcolm Mitchell, number 1 wide receiver for Georgia, he was out most of the ball game. After that 75-yard run by Todd Gurley, Malcolm Mitchell, celebrating in the end zone with a chest bump, tore his ACL. He's out the remainder of the season. Yes, that's right. The number 1 wide receiver for Georgia did not play but a handful of plays in that game against your Clemson Tigers and went down celebrating in the end zone after Todd Gurley's touchdown. And if you didn't notice, too, Todd Gurley missed a good deal. And I know a lot of you that were at the game, you went back and probably got a chance to watch the game again on the DVR because it's one of those games that you just don't get rid of. It's a celebratory thing. You want to keep it around. If that means that you got to delete episodes, some Lifetime movies your wife has recorded, or perhaps, I don't know, the Fresh Beat band that your kids have on the DVR. You do whatever it takes to keep that on there as long as possible. You put keep until I delete. You all know what I'm talking about. Some of you can probably roll back the DVR and find the Virginia Tech ACC championship game. That was a hard one for me to ever get rid of. The LSU game from last year, finally pulled that one off the DVR. Thanks to a guy like Tiger Ray, though, you can find most of them on YouTube, and that's been the one saving grace for me in giving me 4, 8, and 16 hours back off of my DVR to put other things on there that we probably, that my kids probably want to watch a little bit more than I want to watch the football game. Now, I love watching the football game, but if I don't get to, I'm not going to pitch a fit. I'm not going to sit on the floor and kick it. Well, maybe I might on a bad day. Maybe Labor Day tomorrow, I might do that. I might just do that. But, yeah, this was a outstanding game. Reminded me, I know Roger said it earlier, like old school Clemson football. Give the Clemson hotline a call here on TigerNet Talk, though, 803-450-0086. That's 803-450-0086. Right down below here, hashtag CST560. All the information is on the screen. You can email us Clemson81@gmail.com and follow us on Twitter. We are at Clemson Sports. A great day to be a Clemson Tiger for sure. I know it ends late. I wish if I have another complaint or any complaints about the whole situation, I said 4 a.m., 4:08, my head hit that pillow. I wish Clemson would do a lot like Charlotte used to do at the old Hornets Arena, where they would put all the traffic out. And I know they've tried to do better, and they're still trying to get better, but I really think if you would just go ahead and open up everything out, just tell people who are trying to come in, look, you're going to have to wait, because I think we could really clear it out in an hour. I think we could really clear that whole place out in an hour, hour and a half tops. Instead, it turns into a 2, 3, 4-hour affair. And be safe, people. Man, I saw all kinds of people riding in the back of trucks. One lady sitting in like a lounge chair with stuff stacked up all around her. I mean, I'm just thinking, man, that's a bad turn away from just a terrible, terrible incident. By the way, thank you to everybody being here live. I see Cassandra, Matt, a couple of new people. Michael have checked in. The folks over at TigerNet are here. Dustin's in the house this evening. Ted, Rob, DSP, Bill, JK, thank you all for being here. Rick says, hold on a second, I'm cramping up. Rick's got the Georgia, he's got the Georgia defensive syndrome. That's how you get the clock stopped. That's how you get off the field when you need to get off the field. You just fall over and cramp. Georgia's defense looked like a bunch of European soccer club players falling left and right every time Clemson's offense got clicking. We'll address that and much more on the final segment of TigerNet Talk. Stay with us, Tiger fans.
I wanted to be just like Jeff Davis when I grew up, tackling Seminoles and Bulldogs, playing football in the mud. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981.
And this is one of those silent moments I was telling you about earlier. If you just joined us, we're getting ready to roll right here.
Georgia, 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 Georgia. We on the grind, Georgia, all the time. It ain't nothing on my mind, but Georgia, we ain't playing with you.
You're right. They were not playing with us. They just wanted to lay down and hope that we would stop playing. Hope that Clemson would slow down the game. You've probably by now seen the footage. And there were only a couple of times during the game where I sort of recognized it as it happened live, where a Georgia player would tell someone to lay down on the field. And I know that when you see it, it looks terrible. And I am not a fan of this type of behavior by any means. Like I said, it reminds me of Premier League soccer. Anytime I've watched the World Cup, I mean, in the World Cup, these guys get tripped and they fall over and a stretcher comes out, and it takes them 4 minutes to get them off of the pitch, and then they're sitting over there on the sidelines for like 10 seconds, and then they're loose and ready to go. I mean, it's unbelievable how they try to bait the officials in that regard to giving a red card or a yellow card to get a man advantage as it is in a sport like soccer. But in college football and in football in general at this point, when you're talking about the pace and the tempo that Clemson wants to play with, when you look at it from that perspective, what can you do as a defense to stop it? You've heard coaches out there, most notably Nick Saban, say he thinks this style of play is dangerous. I think anybody in their right mind knows that that's completely ridiculous to even buy into that. But there are those people out there that are going to say that that's the fact, that that is the case, and that it is dangerous. And teams are going to try to do whatever they can to slow down the tempo. And one way to do it is to fake injuries. Do I think that there were players for the Georgia Bulldogs? I'd love your take on it. Hashtag CST560. Also on Twitter, we're at Clemson Sports, or in the chat room. You can put some information in, and we'll definitely try to get to your comments. Do I think Georgia faked injuries? I think occasionally there may have been some of that going on. I also think, too, though, that Georgia understands that in order to get somebody off who is injured, they're probably going to have to lie down. Because of the way that the game works now, with the substitution penalties, as quick as Clemson is, if you are injured and you're trying to get off, the refs aren't going to stop it. The only way they're going to stop the clock is if you actually lay down. And so if, for example, I can't remember the player who the number, maybe it was 84. I can't remember number 84 for Georgia. If he's injured and he tells his teammate, I got to go off, I'm hurt or whatever, he raises his hand, they say lay down, so that we can get that break, which maybe is a little much, but it's a strategy that people are going to use. I don't like it. Clemson, the fan base has become the only fan base. This is the truth. You guys have become the only fan base in America that boos opposing players when they're injured. We boo them. But it makes sense. You don't boo them when it's on their offense. I didn't hear us boo one player on offense for Georgia who got injured. It was every time a defender was injured, we booed. And we booed loudly, and the place was electric. The atmosphere was unbelievable. But, yeah, I don't know that it was done intentionally all the time. I do think there may have been some cases of that. In fact, Seth Emerson, he writes for the Macon paper there in Macon, Georgia. He covers the Bulldogs for them. I can't remember the exact newspaper. But Seth Emerson turned and looked and said, you know what, that guy's not faking. He said, I don't know if any of the other guys were. He's not. That's our best player on defense. And then on that next play was when Roderick McDowell put him in the spin cycle, shenanigans, and took the ball down near the goal line. Of course, then Stanton Seckinger. What a great play by him. I talked about how much more comfortable I was with the running backs, seeing Stanton play as well as he did. 2 receptions, 26 yards, a touchdown in the game. Zach Brooks, man, coming out of the backfield when almost it appeared Zach Brooks was invisible in the ballgame to some degree. He runs what many people would call C.J. Spiller's old wheel route, and it made it look good. Taj Boyd threw a beautiful ball. And if you didn't see this, if you're a fan of the show, you know that we had George Whitfield Jr. on. Game day, they had George Whitfield Jr. They also had Clemson Tom on there, and Dustin says, hey, If my compadre Clemson Tom got an ESPN spot, you deserve a segment. Dustin, that would be awesome. I could be the bald man on campus part 2. Can you imagine? They wouldn't even need to bring in lights if, me and Scott Van Pelt were side by side. We'd be good to go. We wouldn't need anything extra. And how about this? When Dabo Swinney was on in the morning, Dabo Swinney said no thank you to the makeup. He's a man's man. He goes on camera, no makeup. I don't know which coaches do wear makeup when they're on camera, but maybe Steve Spurrier's a makeup guy. I'm just throwing it out there. Perhaps Steve Spurrier is a coach who does wear makeup. But the electricity, the energy in Death Valley could not be matched. And I challenge you this week, and it's going to be a topic on the program on Clemson Sports Talk on Monday's show. When is another time you've heard Death Valley as electric as it was against the Georgia Bulldogs last night? Miami triple overtime game was an electric atmosphere. I think up until last night, I could have easily said that was the loudest I've ever heard it. The 2003 Florida State game was rocking, but at the beginning of that game, when you remember, Clemson was kind of coming in, not feeling good about the program. You had a number 3 ranked team coming into the Valley, so you needed a win, but the fan base wasn't where they were in this one because you just didn't know what was going to happen the remainder of the season. You didn't know if Tommy Bowden was going to be able to keep his job. This game, what I think many people saw down the road is that bright future, the potential of what could be this year, and the chance to knock off a top 5 ranked team. You're sitting at number 8. Do you jump the Gamecocks in the polls when they come out? Do you move up? How far do you move up? Right now, the polls are going to be very, very fluid. I know there's not a lot of margin for movement where you sit right now, but at this point in the season, teams who are playing other legitimate teams will be reevaluated to some degree. And your Clemson Tigers could very easily move up further in the polls. They could jump a couple of teams with this victory. The only negative side that you have is people say, well, maybe Georgia was a little bit overrated. And maybe they were. I mean, they had a lot of fresh new guys coming back for the first time ever really getting to play on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, their defense was very young. Clemson's defense, especially the secondary, not young, but because of injuries last year, not as much experience as Dabo Swinney and the staff would have liked. Mackenzie Alexander's got to get out on the field soon, and I know he is a true freshman and a guy that people are still going to say, well, he's clearly a question mark. But Mackenzie Alexander is not going to do any worse, I don't think, than anybody else did that was out there last night. Lots of missed opportunities by Clemson's secondary, I thought. But some of that because just Aaron Murray is that good. When Aaron Murray's given time, when Aaron Murray can move the pocket, direct traffic down the field, you can only hope to cover somebody for 3 to 4 seconds tops. After that, it's a scramble. It's you and your dad and your uncle and your brother in the backyard at Thanksgiving. I mean, you're running routes that have turned into all kind of mess. Somebody's eventually going to get open, and Aaron Murray would move the pocket early on. And I think once he got hit too, he got a little less comfortable getting out of the pocket and rolling. It's kind of ironic because you would think once you got hit a couple times in the pocket, you'd move a little bit sooner. Seemed to me like Murray really started to stay in more. I don't know if that was the coach saying, hey, you need to quit getting out of the pocket. You need to stay in there and make the big plays. But then that allowed Clemson to get closer and closer to him. Atmosphere was electric. Third quarter strong was in effect. I don't believe realistically that our shows had anything to do with Danny Ford getting into the Ring of Honor or the Pauls being painted back on the roads leading to Clemson or the fans being third quarter strong. Realistically, I don't believe that. But if those things haven't been something we've talked about, then if you said you haven't said that, Swan, then you'd be lying because all of those things we have talked about here on the program. And again, like we said last week, if you didn't see the tweet, the block letters are supposed to be in the end zones the entire season, that old school Clemson look. Final segment of TigerNet Talk, episode number 192 coming up. Thank you all for being here with us, talking about the Georgia game. Get in the final segment on the Clemson Hotline, 803-450-0086.
I used to sneak downtown with my fake ID and watch Doug McCormick rock TDs on a Friday night.
Blake Austin of South Carolina Farm Bureau is an insurance agent you can count on to meet all your needs. Home, auto, health, life, you name it, Blake's got you covered, and he can save you on your yearly rates. Call him now for a free quote, 803-259-5008. That's 803-259-5008. Or just go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com and click on the Farm Bureau logo to be connected to Blake. Do like I do and work with the best agent around, and you can tweet that. Enjoy the Clemson football season at Seasons by the Lake Restaurant. Tiger Tailgate on the Terrace at Seasons Restaurant will be held every Clemson football game day, rain or shine, home or away, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for those day games and noon to midnight for the evening kickoffs. Enjoy a large screen TV, a Bloody Mary and mimosa bar, specialty drinks, and a great tailgate menu, all on the Seasons Terrace. For more information, call 656-7444 or visit their Facebook page, facebook.com/seasonsbythelake. I hope to see you on the terrace.
Want to hear the sound of hassle-free traveling? Amtrak takes the hassle out of traveling to over 500 destinations. You can stretch out in a spacious seat, relax in a sleeping car, and enjoy a hot meal in the dining car. And for those who want to kick back and take in the scenery, go right ahead. For everything you get on Amtrak, the one thing you won't get is this. So whether you're going to a family reunion or an away game, make it a whole lot nicer on Amtrak. Book your trip today at Amtrak.com or call 1-800-USA-RAIL.
All aboard! On Saturday morning, I don't sleep late. I eat an early breakfast and I head out for the gate. I gotta get there early to watch the Tigers play. The dogs are in town, we'll blow them away. I've got my orange t-shirt, got my orange hat, even orange underwear. Now what you think of that? I'm an orange fan.
That's an old cool jam. That is an old cool jam, and it is an old school jam. That song, when I was a kid, on Saturday morning, I don't sleep late. I eat an early breakfast, and I head out for the gate. Welcome back into TigerNet Talk. Thank you all for being here again. The Clemson hotline is open, 803-450-0086. And don't be like the one guy. Had one emailer. I love this story. It's great. He called. He was leaving messages left and right. He was so hot and bothered. Oh, man, it was good. And I know he's probably listening this evening and laughing at himself. It was so funny. And finally, I kept getting these buzzes because my phone, whenever you leave a voicemail, it comes to the phone too. My phone was buzzing, bzz, bzz, during the week, and I'm like, what is going on? Somebody's calling the Clemson hotline on TigerNet Talk. And so finally I come up here and I start listening to the message, and the man is just getting angrier and angrier. And he looks at me, or he says in the last message, he says, and I keep calling, and you won't answer. So I had his number from the phone call, and I called him back, and I said, look, I said, sir, you're watching the tape version of the show. You're not watching live. Live Sunday nights, 9 p.m. on the front page of TigerNet. So thank you to everybody who's here. Ross, great question. Do you think Clemson's offense could have played faster? The UGA's defense didn't seem set, but we waited. Why? I don't know if we could have run, if we could have gone much faster than we did. I think some of it, with Clemson's delays at the line of scrimmage, a lot of times I think it's really just trying to figure out what they think is the best thing to do. Now, we do like to keep that tempo up, but Taj Boyd, he's been given a lot of reign with this offense. I think Chad Morris really believes in him. And Taj, you've seen some plays. In fact, ESPN highlighted some of them in the past that were like going to be, that were set up to be runs. You can see everything that happened there was a run, but much like in the scrimmage earlier this season or this year, Taj Boyd, when he gets an opportunity to check to a wide receiver and say, hey, we've got an advantage on the outside, let's do it. Even though the offense is, still set up to run the ball and the line, run blocks and everything looks like it's going to be a running play. And next thing you know, Boyd delivers a pass out into the flats and you've got 2-on-2 football. And Clemson, with the athletes that they have, can take advantage of that. I think sometimes some of the delay might be that. And just, you won't – there is such a difference, in my opinion, in being a speedy, fast offense than an offense that plays with tempo and pushes you and really stretches the defense to get up to the line of scrimmage and get set and go and not out of control. And you look at this Clemson team, they play with a lot of tempo. When they get going, it's a strange feeling. You can almost feel it in the stadium. As the electricity in the stadium builds, you also kind of feel that momentum. And those third down conversions, that's always so big for this offense. And once they get going, they're a juggernaut. I mean, they are a legitimate beast when they're going at full throttle. So I think that's a great statement you make. I think it's a good point, and I think part of it is just adjusting to the defense to some degree. They don't always do it. I think they like to be the aggressor, but clearly the Clemson Tiger defense plays with a high motor and a high tempo. Mike says Swanee is the Swammy. You got that right, Mike. Thanks for checking in. Follow him on Twitter. He's at Bent0. So you hang around long enough, and I'll know your Twitter handle just by your name. Ted says the prevent gave Georgia the last touchdown. If Georgia got the onside, they could have won. Well, you know what? I know exactly what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying, Ted. I had somebody else today tell me they thought that was terrible going to the prevent. Stay in your base defense. Georgia moved the ball. They got it down the field. They got themselves an opportunity. But you know what? It was too late for the Bulldogs. And your Clemson Tigers are 1-0. And that's where you got to start if you want to stay in the mix. If you want to be a contender, you don't start at 0-1. You start at 1-0. And that's all that's happened. One win. 38-35. A great game. An electric atmosphere. Thank you to everybody listening to the program this evening. I hope you'll join us tomorrow night, Monday through Friday, on Sports Radio 560 The Team from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. You can listen on the iHeartRadio app or online at 560theteam.com. It is Clemson Sports Talk broadcasting live from the belly of the beast. By the way, we will not have a show Tuesday, taking Tuesday's show off, but Monday through Friday on Sports Radio 560 The Team. That's all the time we have for this week, folks, here on this episode of TigerNet Talk. Thank you so much for being with us. And as always, y'all take care now. And go Tigers!